Australia, the largest island in the world with the greatest number of landscapes. A country isolated for so many years that its wildlife is some of the most unique anywhere. Home to only 22 million people from 200 different countries. Australia's a place that's crying out to be explored, and I've got just the way to do it. For the last couple of weeks, I've been satisfying my love of ballooning and taste for adventure in Australia. I'm working up to entering a big balloon competition in Canberra, the birthplace of ballooning down under. To help me snatch first prize, I've assembled a top balloon team. On board is pilot Robin Batchelor, who accompanied me on my African adventure last year. Then there's Matthew, a Sydney-based British pilot with local knowledge. Victor's next, our crew chief and token Kiwi. And finally Daisy, our red and white candy-striped balloon designed by and named after my 9-year-old daughter. To get competition ready, I'll be experiencing Australia's southeast corner, taking in the states of South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales, from the air and on the ground. My journey began in the outback when our maiden flight over South Australia's Flinders Ranges nearly brought any hope of making it to Canberra to a very abrupt end.
As soon as we hit, I was upside down. The initial jolt nearly put me teeth through me brain.
As if wrestling with the outback's erratic winds wasn't enough, just days later I volunteered to help the local stockman tag cattle and discovered I didn't really have the stomach for it.
There you go, mate!
The outback's so full of weird and wonderful sights that arriving in the Barossa Valley for a little easy flying was a bit of a relief and put us in great form to hit Melbourne.
Nothing to it, really.
So here we are in Melbourne, the capital city of Victoria and home to 4 million people, the biggest shipping port in Australia and the largest tram network in the world. Melbourne is one of the few major world cities that allow hot air balloons to fly overhead, so we're here to sharpen our wits before entering Australia's biggest balloon competition, now just weeks away. That is, if we ever work out Melbourne's road rules.
Am I in the right lane now?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Just keep going straight.
I'm just a bit worried about these trams. If I go... Can you
honestly,
go down a wrong tram line?
Well, you can. Just keep going straight.
OK.
Straight, that's it.
Yeah. Albert Road.
Hey fellas, nice day for it.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. See you later.
Well, the people seem very friendly. For a busy city, I don't think you get the equivalent back home.
Straight.
You're going to turn right, mate. You can't go there.
Turn right.
It's a red light.
Well, everyone else is going. I see. Sorry about that, old chap.
OK.
So we're straight ahead here?
Go left-hand lane. We need to stay in the left-hand lane in order to turn right.
Well, if we go like this, so I've got to go left here and then
No, just
up there.
right.
I don't understand what I'm
Go right.
doing.
Just turn right. Keep going.
There's cars coming. There's cars coming.
Just go.
Okay.
Go. That's good. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry.
We're from England.
Where'd you get your license, mate? Come back!
Oh, dear.
Well, yeah. I see that their drivers have a bit more of an English attitude.
Yes, at last I feel at home.
Well, after a very frantic drive through the Melbourne city traffic, it's good to get out of the vehicle. It's had its effect on Robin. He's going to take it easy for the evening, whereas I am off to the MCG for one of the biggest AFL games on the card. It's between Geelong and Essendon, two massive teams with great rivalry and a great history. I can't wait. Sport is a huge part of the Australian makeup. Melbourne is the centre of this very proud Australian sports history, and the MCG is its mecca. So to go there tonight for this huge football game should give me a better understanding of the people.
I always believe you should go to a match on a full stomach. I'm just hoping the 100,000 people due at tonight's game don't think the same. Apparently more people watch Aussie rules than watch cricket or even rugby, the two sports Australia is most famous for. But not every Melbourneian agrees it's this weekend's top event.
I'd say the biggest thing happening is the Greek festival that's here on the weekend. You can come down?
Yeah, look, there's a big community here, isn't it?
We're the third largest Greek community outside of Greece. So I think it's like 300 to 400,000 Greeks. I mean,
What happens at the festival?
what you're doing now, eating, a lot of eating. And there's dancing, there's music, you name it, everybody brings their families down. It's great.
And the Aussies are quite competitive. Do you get into any competitions in the festival?
Yeah, we do. We've got a couple. There's a Zorba one, which would be funny to see you do. It's, you know, you dance around in circles to fast. That's the one.
Yeah.
It's a black eating competition as well.
You eat these in a competition?
You just keep eating them. You have 7 minutes, and you just have to stuff them in.
What's the record?
I think it's about 4.5.
Jeepers.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the start of the match saves me from signing up for any competitions. Within walking distance of the city centre, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, or the G as it's known locally, is one of the world's most famous sporting venues. During the Australian summer, it's where the Ashes series between England and Australia takes place, and in the winter, it's home to the AFL. It's Friday night, the biggest night of the week for Aussie rules. Two of the sport's largest rivals will be battling it out. It's last year's champions Geelong versus Essendon.
Robin will be absolutely envious that I'm here. He'll be as green as this pitch. What I'd really like to do would be stand out in the middle and face Dennis Lilly at his prime.
But I'll have to settle for kicking a field goal to a man in a furry suit.
There you go, that's Half-Cat, the mascot. I just kicked the goal there, that's 6 points. We haven't even started.
Both teams come from the Melbourne suburbs, as do 8 other teams in the 16-strong league. That's got to make choosing which team to support pretty tough. For me, it's easy. I'm with the Geelong Cats.
I suppose the immediate thing that you notice, the difference between this and our football back home, is that there isn't as much segregation between the fans, although there's still that obvious competitive nature between the teams. It's much more good-natured. There's a bit of sledging goes on between the fans because there's a lot of local pride at stake, but it never spills over into the violence that we've seen in our domestic game. So I'm all for this, the mixing of the fans. Seems to be a much healthier approach. What I've experienced tonight walking out on the MCG, it's one of the most amazing stages in the world. To translate that to Robin to see if I can persuade him to fly over it, because it's just something to savour the atmosphere here, and as an arena it's second to none.
The game might look like a cross between ballet and mud wrestling, but I'm told it's closer to football and Gaelic football. The point is to score as many goals as you can by kicking the ball between the goalposts of the opposing team. It's close, but the match goes to Geelong. For the first time on my Australian adventure, it's nice to have backed the winning team. I just hope Robin and I are as lucky. After last night's Aussie Rules game at the MCG, I can't believe I'm lucky enough to be experiencing another personal first so soon. A balloon flight over the city of Melbourne.
This morning is a very different balloon experience. Melbourne's one of the only cities in the world that has such a good relationship with air traffic control that you can fly over it. I'm a little trepidatious. We haven't done a flight like this before, so it'll be a unique experience for the pair of us. But we've got Paul with us, who's used to flying over Melbourne.
Paul helped Robin and I with an earlier flight over Victoria's Murray River. But as we'll be flying in controlled airspace, this time he'll be more hands-on.
It's a big city. It's quite a complicated place to fly. We need to have a pilot on board who's been route qualified for Melbourne, and I'm that pilot.
It's a very good rehearsal for the flight we'll be doing in Canberra, which is called target flying, where you have a pre-arranged point that you've got to try and land on. So it's more sort of like sport ballooning rather than leisure ballooning. Are you in constant touch with air traffic control?
Yeah, we have to be in constant communication or contact with ATC, and we also carry a transponder because we're in airspace and we're blinking on their radar. They know exactly where we are. Keeps everybody happy.
Very good. Morning.
Morning, boys!
After Africa and then the outback and then the Barossa Valley, this seems very unnatural.
I know it does. I'm still on tiptoes. Just watch for... That's just an aerial. There's no wires, are there?
For several years running, Melbourne's been ranked as the ultimate sports city, beating Paris in second place and London in fifth. The number of sporting venues right in the heart of the city won Melbourne the title, and having experienced its flagship venue, the MCG, on match night, and now all quiet and spotless at sunrise, I'm not surprised.
Oh, this is special. This is very, very, very special. My gob has never been so smacked. They really love their sport here. I mean, the arenas are slap bang in the middle, walking distance.
Bang ahead as well.
Yeah.
But Melbourne's also #1 because of its long history of holding major sporting events, from the Olympic Games to the Australian Open tennis and the Melbourne Cup. A horse race which has its own public holiday.
It's just another day at the office for you then, Paul.
Yep, Stephen.
Skimming confidently over the city's Yarra River, we prepare Daisy for a perfect stand-up landing.
Charlie Foxtrot Kilo X-ray on descent to land. We will have completed operations within the next 10 minutes.
I'm going to give that tree.
No, don't you worry. You'll...
Just
hold us there, hold us there.
hold us there. Pull us back if you can. Can you? Can he? No.
Yeah, no, he's...
All right, over the top.
Look, no hands. Oh, how good.
Welcome back to terror.
Wait on, please, gentlemen.
One bounce. Well done, everybody. Put it there, champ. That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
Thanks, Stephen.
My God, well done, eh? That was something else, eh?
That is a flight that I will remember always. I think it's just a very special memory, a unique experience, and one that I'll treasure for the rest of my life.
Stephen, it's quite interesting. Robin's really dialed in to his flying and his ballooning, but I think Stephen at the moment is just more interested in taking photos and waving at people, and he's really got to pick up that map if they're going to get serious for the competition in Canberra. So they've got some work to do together. They're not there yet.
Yeah, Paul seems very impressed with Robin's pilot skills and with us as a team. I think that he reckons we stand a pretty good chance in Canberra, so yeah, it's all good. It's boosting the ego and the confidence.
Next to watching Aussie Rules and seeing the MCG, coffee is another one of Melbourne's musts. With more than 10 coffee shops every square mile, that shouldn't be too difficult to do.
Some coffee?
Yes, what What's your best coffee?
Cafe latte is the most popular. The next is the macchiato. Half a glass of coffee with some milk, but not as much as. Try that.
Macchiato.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice long macchiato for two.
Yeah, lovely.
Good man. That was a flight and a half, eh?
It was breathtaking. To have, you know, a city embrace ballooning is a rarity and a real treat. I mean, that'll stay with me for a long
But to
time.
nail that MCG, and it made it for me because you're such a sportsman, and so that flight is way up there amongst my best flights.
Oh, definitely.
Here we go, sir. Now.
Oh, good man.
Oh, here we go.
Dilemma. Now, this is a black coffee, and everything starts from here. Now, macchiato, basically, the word the macchiato, it means stain.
Oh,
A stain of milk.
Stain.
Okay, that's perfect.
I mean, we can go on and on until it's topped up properly, but would you like a piece of pastry of some description?
We're entirely in your hands.
Crikey, that'll put lead in your pencil.
Yeah.
Melbourne has its Italian immigrants to thank for the city's current coffee boom.
Aspetto one, rigatoni uno.
Many arrived in the 1850s when gold was discovered about 20 miles outside of Melbourne, starting one of the world's biggest gold rushes. Opened in 1954, this cafe was one of Melbourne's first, and from 8 a.m. till midnight there's been a constant flow of traffic ever since.
This is the place. This place really brought coffee culture to Melbourne.
Yeah, it's like under the philosophy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sorry, I couldn't help noticing the cans there.
Yeah, we're doing some painting down in Hosier Lane.
Gnocchi bolognese, grazie.
In the city, we've got 5 or 6 streets where communities have kind of evolved around these places, and they've exploded with street art. The authorities haven't had too much to do with it. It was a real organic process where the artists kind of started doing it. Right. Incredibly, it's attracted businesses to these locations now, so it's actually created an economy.
As wonderful as Melbourne looks from the air, the city's lanes are what many visitors come to see. Street artist Andrew Mack has agreed to give me a tour of Hosier Lane.
Beat any institution in the country. It has been called the #1 cultural attraction in Australia.
So I don't know how many tourists there are at the moment, but there's 2 film crews as well, because it's just a unique backdrop.
That's right. People come down here and get their wedding photos taken on weekends. They'll line up with, like, hot cars and stuff. It's kind of crazy. No one could have imagined it.
No, I was going to say. Is that one of Banksy's rats?
Actually, that's by Blekler Rat. He's a Parisian street artist. Predates Banksy by 20 or 30 years. Right. He was out here last year. Banksy has been here in the early 2000s. Did a lot of parachuting rats all around town.
Now, that's a different style.
Well spotted. That's by a Japanese artist, Iko Taniyuchi. It's completely finger painted.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Using acrylic paints.
Is this all one artist?
So this is a crew. So there's 5 or 6 people working on this piece. They're from Everfresh crew. So when you have 5 or 6 people working on something, it's called a production.
Right.
Yeah.
And how often does the sort of canvas change? Is there an unwritten, respectful rule?
Yeah. Look, some pieces, if people don't like them, or it's kind of like they'll start to tag on them. When something starts to get a bit tagged up, then the gloves are off. Anyone can come and hit that. But when something's well executed or people love it, you find that it gets respected. That can end up staying for years.
So you can have that butterfly motif get added onto things rather than replaced.
Sometimes you get like a dialogue going between artworks, but people do act.
Graffiti, murals and stencils like British-born Banksy's parachuting rat started to appear in Melbourne in the 1970s and 80s when the city's youth were influenced by New York's street art scene. Initially illegal, over time Melbourne's authorities have got on board. Providing artists have got the right permissions, street art is now legal and even championed.
Are there specific paint shops you have to go to?
Yeah, a lot of artists like to use a very specialised...
Do the guys not get a bit suspicious when you say you want 6 shades of green, 2 yellows and a purple? Chances are you're not going to be touching up a Mazda, you know.
That's right. It was once an underground movement.
Yeah.
It's now arguably the biggest art movement the world has ever seen in terms of the number of people doing it worldwide.
So is it just walls you can stick to, or can you pretty much art up anything?
Spray paint will attach itself to pretty much anything.
That's fantastic. There you go. Ned lives again.
Like a lot of street art, much of the work on display in Melbourne celebrates anything or anyone that's a bit of an outcast. That's why the famous Aussie bushranger Ned Kelly is a favourite with artists and certain British balloonists. It's the quietest morning I've experienced so far on my Australian adventure. I'm in Melbourne and the streets are deserted, with the exception of Lonsdale Street, where the entire Greek population are out in force. It's the annual Antipodes festival to mark Greece's National Day.
Well, today in Melbourne is the Greek Festival. Melbourne has the third largest Greek population in the world. There's Athens, Thessalonica, and then Melbourne. They make up 1 in 4 of the entire population of Melbourne. So it's a very... There's supposed to be about 300,000 people coming here today. There's stalls everywhere, as you can see. There's dancing competitions, souvlaki eating competitions. So Robin and I are just coming to savour the action. And I might get him involved at some point as well. He brags that he's a brilliant worldwide dancer. He's showed me his dancing skills in Africa, so I think I'm going to have to see what his Greek dancing skills are like in Melbourne.
Us Brits had a hand in bringing the first Greeks to Australia. In 1829, 7 Greek sailors were convicted of piracy by a British naval court and were sent to the colony of New South Wales to serve out their term. Not so lucky for them, but eventually very lucky for Australia, whose now very large Greek population introduced everything from olive oil to cinema and, of course, Peter Andre.
There's a rather bizarre phenomenon has happened today. People keep seeing Robin and assuming he's Richard Branson. So we're going to roll with it if it gets us into places.
Can you buy Olympic Airways?
I can buy anything, but I'm just trying to be careful what I buy.
Robin taught Richard Branson to fly a balloon before his crossing of the Atlantic, so I guess this look-alike business is payback.
And the music is just so unique to Greece.
Oh, is the rhythm getting to you?
It is, yeah. I'm thinking of Zorba, the Greek, and all of these things.
Oh, well, I'll have to do something about that.
I feel like I can almost remember how to do it. I can feel my feet.
You can do it?
Well, you know, what a good day. It'd be rude not to amongst all of these Greeks.
Well,
see, there it is.
Careful what you wish for, Robin. That's all I'm saying.
Robin wants to dance, and I know someone who can help me sort that out.
And is there a place that you can register to enter?
Of course, so we've got the Greek Community Hub.
Right.
Everybody goes and signs their forms and, you know, everybody enters like that.
I've been training a young thoroughbred and I think he'll give the locals a run for their money.
I'm sure he will.
Now, quickly, what are the basic moves?
Wait, you've got to go. 1 step.
Yeah? Kick. Right. Back. Oh, yes! A little bit of up in the air. Oh, yes! I think they all think I'm Richard Branson.
You look like Richard Branson.
I know, I look like him. Shh, don't tell Virgin I'm here. I'm incognito. He certainly welcomed me and thanked me for all the airline stuff, so not sure whether to be RB or Sir RB.
We have Mr. Richard Branson here. Yeah. The one and only. Welcome, sir. He's still a virgin. Richard's tired already.
Are you sure?
OK, so Englishmen can't dance Zorba no matter who they are. But given Robin's big mouth, I'm sure he'll manage the souvlaki eating competition.
And they're off, ladies and gentlemen. How are we going? I haven't even asked these guys their names, but I think they were just too hungry to tell me. That show didn't work in Greece.
Run, you British one!
Mate, you're lagging behind
Stop
now.
with the goals. We're on our third, ladies and gentlemen. We are on a third. Where is our third one? We're a contestant number 2. What's his third? Your time is up, and let's hear it for the leader. Sue.
Very proud.
He did very well, very nice.
You're the man. Who won?
We've been invited to join the procession, which I imagine will be in exactly the same spirit as today. A lot of fun, a lot of frivolity. We've dressed up the troopy, we've dressed up Daisy. We're going to get the burners on, give it plenty of welly, and just have a hoot and a holler.
School children, Greek Orthodox priests and a suitably decorated Daisy make up the procession. We're marching towards Melbourne's Shrine of Remembrance. It's a day that marks the Greek Revolution against the Ottoman Empire, which, on reflection, is quite a serious affair. It's obvious we've misjudged the tone of the event, and Robin hitting the burners isn't helping. Unfortunately, our part in the procession comes to an abrupt end as we get arrested by a scout leader. I think it's probably about time to leave Melbourne.
I told you this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, do we look embarrassed yet?
A little bit.
Canberra is Australia's capital city. Chosen in 1908 as a compromise between rivals Melbourne and Sydney, the city is now home to Australia's Parliament, High Court and Mint. Ahead of our competition in Canberra, its no-nonsense approach to Aussie life should help Robin and I clean up our act. Also useful because tomorrow we're flying in Canberra's Balloon Spectacular, an event where we'll come face to face with many of Australia's top balloonists for the first time. Over 40 balloonists are to take part in this morning's balloon festival, but as we turn up on site, it's clear many of them have decided to stay in bed. The average monthly rainfall in Australia is about 2 inches, and that's currently what's falling by the minute.
Why is everyone so negative? It's only a bit of rain.
It should be like Biggin Hill, scramble.
Exactly.
And we'll just go for it. Because once you're up, they can't get you down.
No, quite, exactly.
That's what I reckon. We were born in the rain.
That low is gradually moving southeast. It's over central Victoria now, moving southeastwards towards Tasmania, but unfortunately there's still quite a lot of shower activity around the rest of the day. It's warm, there's a cold upper pool above all this, so it's a great setup for thunderstorms and instability, so not an excellent day for flying.
As balloons and water don't mix, flying is disappointingly cancelled. But the day isn't a complete washout when a Canberra radio station invites me to set out my stall.
Stephen Tompkinson, welcome to camp. Can I say a very warm welcome?
Yeah, we could pray for nice weather. That's what I could be doing.
Well, we could do. Goodness me.
We've got a month to train before a big balloon challenge.
In Canberra, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to come and win that race, it says.
So we're hoping to get in as much flying as possible, but today's looking doubtful.
Although, Robin,
here in the background.
Yeah. What would be the winning time? What would you look to...
Well, what you do is you have to drop a marker very accurately. So they lay out a cross, a big old pink cross about 10 kilometres downwind, and you have to fly your balloon to it and drop a marker marked with your name.
Stephen.
Smack it, Stephen. That's right.
That's his role, yes.
And when I started ballooning about 1970, if you landed in the same county, you were pretty good. If you were in the same field, you were an absolute wizard. But today's top, you know, the sort of world's pilots will be dropping their marker within inches of the cross.
Well, it's all a bit disappointing, really. I mean, we've sort of built up momentum from the earlier flights and got that feeling back that we had in Africa, and it was like the team was back together. And today we arrive here and Robin's met a lot of old friends and people who hadn't met him but know him because he is a bit of a legend when it comes to ballooning. And, you know, the rain came down and it's just put a dampener on everything. We've met a lot of the competition today and they don't scare me. They don't scare Robin. They were all far too prepared to jack it in early doors. We're prepared to go now. So yeah, we're going to beat them. There's just no two ways about it. We've thrown down the gauntlet. We've announced it on the media with the radio interview we did. Come on, Aussie, come on.
Fighting talk, but Robin and I haven't flown in days, and I'm worried it's all hot air. It's time for shameless stunt pulling. In ballooning, there's two ways to make your mark. You can either fly as far as you can, or fly as high as you can. Our schedule is too tight for a balloon crossing of Australia, so we're heading over the border into the New South Wales countryside to attempt to fly to altitude. Altitude flying is serious business, so Paul and his crew chief Dino are back to coach us through it.
That is a rain cloud.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain of it.
It's coming this way. But we need to be ready to... If we suddenly see a window, we've got to be ready to grab it and get Daisy inflated and up and away.
You think that the low-level cloud will open up a little bit more, late, you know, mid-morning from the southwest?
Yeah, the overlying layers above it, 3,000 feet and above, will be pretty much with us all day, I think.
Right, OK.
Well, Paul, that weather forecast rather fills me with caution. The wind's at only 1,000 feet. What were they, 30 knots?
Yeah, something like that.
Feet? Yeah. That's the kind of thing you can't see. That's a surprise to me. But this now...
It's moving really quickly.
It is. And it could easily rain on us.
It's getting worse from that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's prudent that we cancel it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's say we'll defer it till this afternoon.
Good way of putting it.
Sounds good, Stephen.
Yeah.
After the weather ruled out flying this morning, Robin and I are relocating to give it another go. Paul, one of Australia's top balloonists, has experience in flying to altitude, so he's on board to give us a hand.
Robin, the landing speed could be a little quicker than we had thought. We could be landing at 20 kilometres an hour, conceivably.
20 kilometres an hour? And is that what you expect?
I thought it would be a little bit less.
So did I. So
does it drop when the sun goes?
Yeah, absolutely. As the temperature comes off, the wind speed at ground level will drop.
But we've done fast landings. We don't want to practice those anymore.
No.
Do we?
No.
We're hoping to make it to 10,000 feet. The current balloon world altitude record is 69,000 feet, nearly twice the cruising altitude of a jumbo jet. We'll be some distance off that, but the risks involved in today's flight are still very real. The higher you fly, the more you have to watch out for varying wind speed, cloud cover and freezing air temperatures. Flying at altitude can also cause breathing difficulties.
Almost ready now for our altitude flight, the one we cancelled from this morning because it was too windy. Clouds seem to have parted now. There's good areas of blue. A little bit nervous. Never been up to 10,000 feet in a balloon before. Robin, I can tell, is a little bit anxious as well. But that's all fine. We've got the burners on now, so any second now we shall be off.
If we do make 10,000 feet, we'll join a select group of Australian pilots, none of whom made their attempt in the afternoon when thermals make flying riskier.
We're at 2,000 feet.
Already?
What's the highest we've been to, Stephen?
It's about this.
This view, for Pete's sake. 3,000 feet, it's only 14 knots.
When you're flying recreationally, 2,000 feet is your maximum height. Now at nearly 6,000 feet, amazingly, the temperature's dropped from 25 to 6 degrees.
We're 2 kilometres above the ground.
That's nice.
I've got to confess, you know, this feels very strange. Does it feel strange? I just am amazed the way you're so calm.
Well, it is. It's very. But the higher you get, the more calming it is.
Yeah, we're at 7,000 feet, for Pete's sake. I never thought Australia had any pollution, but that's dirtier.
That's not pollution. That's just moisture and dust.
All right, call it what you like. But smell that air.
Nearly 9,000.
Just about to cross 9,000 feet, now tracking towards 015 at 42 knots.
This has filled me with terror.
I actually think that once you're above 100 feet, it's all academic.
Well, there we are.
There we are, 10,000 feet.
Well done, John.
Well done, Robin.
Wow, we're dropping at more than 1,000 feet a minute. Are we going to lose the sun below any cloud on the horizon?
I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
I think if you were to stay at this height and we just cruised on over there.
We're just herding the sheep as we speak.
Yeah, look at them.
Feet.
They've all come to see what the noise is.
You sure you don't want to razz up the town?
Razz up the town.
So a
Now,
nice
will
easy
there
landing.
be-
Or
razz up the town.
something more exciting and dangerous.
So,
See how
what are
happy
your
I am?
intentions?
Find out what the ground level wind speed is, and then razz up the town. Yeah. We've gone to 10,000 feet. It's still daylight.
You want to put it away nice and neatly?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah. Let's razz up the town tomorrow. Now, I finally feel I've flown across Australia now. You know, it takes a while. I happily confess that. It's taken a while to sort of tick certain boxes. The terrain has changed so much as we've travelled. Weather, God, Mother Nature's thrown all sorts at us.
And I think Stephen, he's finally on that map.
Yes.
And he's got a much better idea of where you are and where you're going.
Yes.
So that'll definitely help.
I think that helps he and I as well. I mean, we're gaining mutual respect for another. The more experience we gain in this balloon, we bloody did it, man.
Absolutely. Lovely.
That was something else. That
Well
was
done, Robin. Stephen?
Thank
I
you,
know.
Paul.
Lost for
Cheers, it was
words.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys are really...
We're ready now.
Yeah.
It's done me a lot of good.
Mm.
Just to have shared that, we are now absolutely ready, up to speed. All we need to do is get there and show them.
Dino, Robin's about to put the burner on. You should be able to see us.
"10,000 feet and a beautiful dusk landing. That's once in a lifetime stuff, making it a great point to move on to the last leg of our trip. As the largest and oldest city in Australia, Sydney sits on a collection of hills around a spectacular harbour. The harbour is home to two of the most iconic Australian monuments, the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. Over the next few days, we plan to get a flavour of the place before we tackle our last flight ahead of Canoundra's balloon competition.
Wow, so good to be in Sydney.
It is.
Must be a good time. They're all heading down to the surge.
Like true Brits, first on our list of things to do in Sydney is get down to the beach. As we arrive, it's obvious that this is no ordinary day. In fact, it looks like quite a busy one for the lifeguards. It's the annual Tamarama to Clovelly Ocean Swim. If the competitors actually make it out and beyond the 12-foot waves, it's a distance of 1.5 miles they have to swim. Of the 11,000 beaches in Australia, Sydney is home to some of the best, but some of the most hazardous. Tamarama, like many of Sydney's beaches, faces the Pacific Ocean and so experiences rip currents. It's this danger that encouraged the creation of the surf lifesaving movement in 1906.
I mean, they're tremendously brave people. They must be. Hundreds of, I mean, just to look at those waves and the way people are being knocked backwards.
Yes, with real force. You can see the force. Mother Nature it's wonderful how enormous and unstoppable her forces are. You know, the winds that we're privy with. Probably half of these people would never go up in a balloon. They'll say, yeah, you wouldn't get me up in one of those for $1 million. And yet you wouldn't get me in that sea.
I wouldn't do this swim, no.
Never. This is the most difficult thing, I think, getting past the surf. Once they're...
telling these guys to come out, I think.
Yeah.
Rumour eventually reaches us that that tiny whistle is actually warning swimmers of a really big threat. A shark's been spotted. As the rescue boats and helicopters search for the shark, the swimmers who battled to get off the beach now race to get back on it.
I wonder if you can actually see this shark.
Over the last few years, shark attacks have been on the increase on Sydney's beaches. Cleaner water has brought schools of fish closer to shore, and the sharks have followed in hot pursuit. There were 20 shark attacks last year, but fortunately none today, as the lifeguards managed to get every swimmer back to shore safely. The Aussies certainly have a way of overcoming whatever this remarkable country throws at them. Robin and I might not have a shark attack to talk of, but we did ace the MCG, fly to altitude and survive a very fast landing. Not bad for a couple of whinging poms.